Henry Louis stood outside the old church in Montgomery, his heart heavy with sorrow. At 70, he had lived a long life, but nothing could prepare him for this moment of unbearable grief. Tears streamed down his weathered face as he thought about his son, the young man whose life had been taken too soon in a brutal racial attack. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that seemed to mirror the darkness in his heart. The church doors stood tall and inviting, but they felt like a barrier between him and the comfort of community. Henry could hear the faint sounds of voices inside, people gathering to listen to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man known for his words of hope and change. But Henry found it hard to focus on anything but his overwhelming pain. Each sob echoed in his chest as memories of his son flooded back, reminding him of laughter shared, dreams spoken, and love that would never fade. Just then, amidst his sorrow, Henry noticed a figure approaching. It was Dr. King himself. Instead of heading straight into the church where he was expected to give an important speech, Dr. King stopped and looked at Henry with kind eyes that seemed to understand his grief without needing words. In that moment, everything around them faded away as Dr. King chose to sit beside Henry on the steps. For nearly an hour, the two men sat together in silence, a silence filled with empathy and respect. Dr. King's presence acted like a balm on Henry's aching heart. He felt seen, as if all the weight of his sorrow had been acknowledged by someone who truly cared. As they sat there under the fading light, it became clear that this was not just a moment of sadness. It was also one of connection and understanding that transcended words, an indelible mark on both their lives before they would eventually rise together and step inside the church. The year was 1964, a time when America was deeply divided by racial tensions. The fight for civil rights was intensifying, as people across the nation stood up against injustice and inequality. In the southern states, where segregation was still prevalent, violence often erupted as a response to the growing demand for change. Henry Louis's son was a victim of this harsh reality. He had become involved in the movement for equality, passionately believing in a better future for all people, regardless of their skin color. Tragically, his activism made him a target. On that fateful day, he was attacked by a group that opposed his beliefs. They saw his courage as a threat and responded with brutality, taking Henry's son away from him far too soon. The news of the attack sent shockwaves through the community. Families were shaken, friends felt lost, and neighbors worried about the rising violence. Henry's grief was shared by many. It became a symbol of the pain felt by countless individuals affected by racial hatred. In Montgomery, the atmosphere was thick with fear and anger as people grappled with their own feelings of vulnerability and loss. In the wake of this tragedy, community members came together to mourn and support one another. They held vigils and rallies, hoping to honor Henry's son's life while advocating for justice. However, the path forward seemed steep and daunting. Many felt hopeless in a society that seemed to turn a blind eye to their pain. As Henry stood outside the church, he reflected on how his son had dreamed of a world where kindness triumphed over hate. The sadness weighed heavily on him, but it also ignited a flicker of determination in his heart. Outside that church, hope lingered like the soft glow of twilight, as people gathered not just to remember, but to stand together against the darkness that threatened their lives. As Henry sat outside the church, lost in his sorrow, the atmosphere around him began to shift. The sounds of chatter and footsteps grew louder as people filed in, eager to hear Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speak. Known for his powerful voice and unwavering commitment to justice, Dr. King was a beacon of hope for many during a dark time in America. His speeches inspired countless individuals, encouraging them to rise up against the injustice that plagued their lives. On this particular day, Dr. King arrived with a profound sense of purpose. He had come to deliver a message of unity and resilience in the face of adversity. However, the heaviness of Henry's grief hung palpably in the air. As he approached the church, Dr. King sensed the deeper struggles woven into the fabric of the community waiting inside. Spotting Henry alone on the steps, Dr. King paused momentarily. His heart went out to the grieving man who embodied so much pain shared by others. Instead of entering the church where he was expected to address a crowd eagerly awaiting his words, Dr. King made a different choice. He walked over to Henry and sat beside him without saying a word. This simple gesture spoke volumes. It was an acknowledgement of Henry's suffering and an invitation for connection at a moment when words might have felt inadequate. For nearly an hour, they sat together in silence, both men feeling the weight of loss and longing for justice. Dr. King understood that sometimes, presence was more powerful than any speech he could give. As they shared that quiet time under the fading light, it became clear that this moment was not just about Henry's personal tragedy or Dr. King's mission. It symbolized a profound bond between those who fought for equality and those who suffered from its absence. When they finally stood to enter the church together, both men were enveloped in a sense of shared purpose, ready to face whatever came next as one united front in the fight against injustice. As Dr. King settled onto the steps beside Henry, the world around them faded into a quiet stillness. The bustling crowd that had formed to hear his voice seemed distant, their eager chatter muffled by the weight of the moment. In that shared silence, compassion filled the air like an unspoken promise, wrapping around both men like a warm embrace. Dr. King understood that sometimes words could not capture the depth of suffering. He recognized the power of simply being present in someone else's pain. As Henry sat there, tears glistening on his cheeks, he felt a flicker of understanding reflected in Dr. King's gentle gaze, a reminder that he was not alone in his grief. This simple act of sitting together spoke volumes about empathy and connection during one of life's most challenging times. For nearly an hour, they remained side by side, united in their silence while the weight of loss surrounded them. Dr. King, known for his powerful speeches, knew that this moment did not require grand words or rhetoric. It needed heart and humanity. With each passing minute, he demonstrated that compassion is often more impactful than any speech could ever be. Around them, people continued to flow into the church, but few noticed the profound exchange taking place just outside the doors. Those who did watch as two men from different walks of life bonded over shared sorrow and hope for change felt an awakening within themselves. Witnessing Dr. King's choice to prioritize compassion over expectation inspired others to reflect on their own roles in fighting injustice. As they sat quietly under the golden hues of the setting sun, something powerful began to stir among those gathered outside. It was a reminder that even in overwhelming moments of despair, kindness and connection can light a path forward. When Henry finally felt ready to rise with Dr. King by his side, it was clear that this moment would resonate far beyond their own lives. It would echo across the hearts of many striving for justice and equality. After a time of quiet reflection, Henry gathered the strength to speak. With a trembling voice, he turned to Dr. King and shared memories of his son, how he had always been a bright light in their family, full of dreams and laughter. He wanted to make the world a better place, Henry said, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. But now it feels like everything is lost. Dr. King listened intently, his heart heavy with empathy. He understood the depth of Henry's pain, recognizing that the loss of any life, particularly one devoted to justice, rippled through the community like a stone cast into still water. In that moment, he leaned closer and softly replied, "Your son's spirit lives on in the hearts of those he touched. His courage ignites hope in others who fight for what is right." Henry felt a flicker of warmth at Dr. King's words. The conversation flowed gently between them as they discussed not only loss but also resilience and hope. Dr. King spoke about how every act of love carries power, even in times of overwhelming sorrow. "When we stand together," he said firmly, "our voices become stronger than the hate that seeks to divide us." As they talked, Henry found comfort in Dr. King's unwavering determination. It was as if Dr. King was reminding him that while grief is profound, so too is the ability to rise from it and continue fighting for justice in his son's memory. They discussed how important it was for families like his to support one another and keep the dream alive for future generations, a dream where kindness would reign over cruelty. Their conversation became more than just an exchange of words. It transformed into a mutual pledge to honor those lost by fostering unity and perseverance within their community. As clouds began to part above them and soft rays of sunlight filtered through, they felt renewed strength growing within their hearts, an assurance that love could overcome even the deepest sorrow. Finally, as they prepared to enter the church together, both men felt that this bond forged through grief would carry them forward in their respective journeys, one man seeking solace and another leading a movement for change. As Henry Louis and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. rose from the steps, a profound sense of unity enveloped them. The air was thick with anticipation, and the sounds of the crowd faded into a hushed reverence as they approached the church doors. With each step towards the entrance, Henry felt his heart beating in rhythm with Dr. King's determined pace, reminding him that he was not alone in his struggle. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm golden light over the gathering outside the church. People turned to watch as the two men walked side by side, their silhouettes framed against the vibrant hues of dusk. It felt as though a new chapter was unfolding, not just for Henry, but for everyone who stood witness to this moment. The atmosphere shifted from sorrow to hope, igniting an unspoken promise that things could change. As they crossed through the threshold of the church, Henry caught sight of a congregation filled with familiar faces. Many had come to honor his son and support him during this difficult time. The moment he stepped inside, a wave of love washed over him, mingled with shared grief and solidarity. It was evident that they all understood the weight carried in their hearts. Then, as if orchestrated by an unseen force, the entire congregation rose to their feet in unison, a gesture that symbolized respect and unity. For Henry, it felt like a collective embrace enveloping him with warmth and understanding. He glanced at Dr. King beside him, whose steady presence provided courage amid overwhelming emotions. Within those sacred walls, voices rose in song and prayer, a celebration of life interwoven with remembrance. Dr. King glanced at Henry, silently affirming that this was more than just a service. It was a rallying cry for justice and peace amid despair. Walking towards the front of the church together, Henry felt renewed purpose sparked by their shared mission against hate. This journey inside represented not only his personal healing but also a commitment to continue fighting for his son's dream, a world where kindness prevailed over pain. In that significant moment, surrounded by community members who stood ready to support one another, both men recognized that together they were part of something much larger, a movement driven by love and resilience against injustice. As Henry and Dr. King stepped into the church, an incredible energy filled the space. The congregation, which had been waiting with bated breath, slowly began to rise from their seats, creating a wave of movement that swept through the pews. It was as though time itself paused for a moment to honor the gravity of the scene unfolding before them. Their rising was not just a sign of respect, it was a heartfelt acknowledgement of the pain and struggle that had brought Henry and Dr. King together that day. Faces illuminated by soft candlelight looked on with mixed expressions of grief and hope, united in their shared determination to remember those lost and to continue striving for a better future. "Together we stand," echoed through the church as members of the congregation silently communicated their support for Henry. Their collective spirit resonated loudly in that sacred space. Each person felt the weight of the moment, recognizing not just the loss of a single life but also the fight against a larger injustice that affected them all. The atmosphere transformed as if a warm light enveloped them, illuminating their connections to one another and signifying a resolve that transcended individual sorrow. Young and old joined in this act of solidarity, reinforcing that no one among them would bear the burden alone. They were a community forged in resilience, prepared to support one another through hardships. Dr. King glanced at Henry, whose eyes reflected both disbelief and gratitude. This display of unity provided more than just comfort. It instilled renewed strength in his heart, a reminder that love truly binds people together, even in times of unimaginable loss. The congregation began to hum softly, blending voices into an encouraging melody that filled the church with an air of healing. It was a call to action. It reminded everyone present that they should not only mourn but also strive to make their voices heard against injustice. As the music rose and enveloped them, Henry felt uplifted. He understood now that his son's legacy would live on through this incredible community spirit, gathering strength from collective love and commitment to fight for justice for all. In that moment, surrounded by so many who cared deeply about making a difference, Henry felt hope ignite anew within him, an unwavering spark amidst despair. The encounter between Henry Louis and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. became a poignant symbol of the broader struggle for civil rights. In a moment that transcended individual sorrow, compassion emerged as a powerful force uniting not just two men but an entire community striving for justice and healing. This gathering in the church was a reminder that while individual losses can feel isolating, they resonate with collective pain, igniting a desire for change. As voices rose in song and prayer filled the sacred space, the essence of community became evident. The congregation's unity showcased that together, they were stronger than the hatred they faced. Henry's grief echoed the struggles of many families who had endured similar heartache, yet within this shared space, there was also an undercurrent of hope. It was a testament to the resilience of those who refused to be defined by their suffering. Dr. King's presence alongside Henry illustrated how essential empathy is in moments of adversity. His decision to prioritize connection over rhetoric embodied the essence of leadership needed to inspire change. By understanding and sharing in Henry's pain, he reinforced the idea that compassion can bridge divides and create lasting bonds among individuals striving for equality. This gathering became more than just a memorial, it transformed into a powerful call to action. It encouraged each person present to reflect on their role in the ongoing fight for justice. The acknowledgement of loss became intertwined with a commitment to honor those lost by working together towards a brighter future, one where kindness and equality would prevail over division and despair. As the sun set outside, casting warm light through the church windows, the collective energy in the room signified resilience. They stood united not just as mourners but as champions of change, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. In that moment, it became clear that healing requires community, understanding, and above all, unwavering compassion, a lesson that would continue to inspire generations in the pursuit of civil rights and justice. This encounter affirmed that love can triumph even in the darkest times when people come together for a common purpose. The encounter between Henry Louis and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. left an indelible mark on both men and the civil rights movement overall. For Henry, it was a moment of profound transformation, one that helped him reclaim his purpose after the devastation of losing his son. This experience not only deepened his commitment to the fight for justice but inspired him to share his story with others, ensuring that his son's memory would live on in a quest for equality and understanding. Dr. King recognized that this seemingly small act of kindness, a simple choice to sit beside a grieving father, could have far-reaching effects. It reinforced his belief that empathy was a powerful tool in the struggle for civil rights, capable of bridging divides and inspiring action. By demonstrating care for individuals like Henry during times of sorrow, he continued to energize the movement, showing that compassion could lead to significant societal change. As word of their meeting spread through community gatherings and rallies, it ignited sparks of hope throughout Montgomery and beyond. Others were encouraged to take similar steps of empathy and connection within their own lives, recognizing how small actions could create ripples that spread outwards, fostering solidarity amidst adversity. In the months and years that followed, Henry became an advocate for peaceful protest and dialogue, sharing his experiences with communities across the nation. He often spoke about how losing his son became a catalyst for change, not just in his own heart but within others who had also faced loss due to discrimination and hatred. This moment exemplified how a single act of kindness has the power to transform grief into purpose and inspire collective action against injustice. Together with Dr. King's unwavering leadership, they laid foundations for future generations, emphasizing that healing often comes through community support and shared dreams of a just world. Ultimately, their encounter served as a lasting reminder that even in moments of deep sorrow, love, compassion, and unity can illuminate the path forward, guiding efforts towards equality and change for all people. In this way, Henry Louis's journey alongside Dr. King became part of an enduring legacy, one where hope prevailed over despair and every individual's story played an essential role in shaping history.